So the sanctions that were authorized by the US president are potentially far-ranging. He signed an executive order that authorized the relevant parts of the US government to sanction individuals and or the court itself. And then he included in that order only one name so far, and that name was the chief prosecutor, Khayyam Khan. Now, that is not the end of the story. The authorization itself is very broad, as I said. So what remains an open question is, will President Trump authorize sanctions of other people within the court? Will he even potentially sanction the court itself? Now, I do have to say the court has survived this kind of sanctions before, specifically during the first Trump presidency. He did sanction members of the prosecution, but the concern here is that if a large number of individuals are sanctioned within the prosecution or within the court generally, or if the court itself is sanctioned, that would be a whole different story. And then I think you would start to see some very, very difficult decisions for the court in terms of how would it move forward. So I think the court is right to suggest that this could be an existential problem. It is not at this time, I don't think, an existential problem, but it is certainly a shot across the bow. And sanctioning the head prosecutor is a massive, not only statement, but effort to intrude in the work of the court itself. Under the Rome Statute, there are multiple ways to get jurisdiction over individuals who are suspected of committing crimes that arise under the Rome Statute. And one of the main ways to get jurisdiction is when crimes occur on the territory of a state party. And that's the situation that you have in the situation in Palestine. In the Palestinian occupied territory, you have a plethora of suspected war crimes, crimes against humanity. And what has happened there is that the court has taken jurisdiction over the situation, which means that it has jurisdiction over crimes that occur in that territory, no matter who commits them. And so this argument, and I'm going to call it an argument, has been rejected by the court itself and then by numerous and myriad international experts because of the way the Rome Statute was written. It's very important that member states of the Rome Statute are actively taking steps to protect the court and its personnel. The first step I think many have taken, which was to put out a very strong statement defending the court and saying that the US should withdraw its sanctions. I think the second step should be, in fact, to activate the blocking statute of the EU. I think that would be a very effective and appropriate next step. As for Article 70, it is true that the actions taken to sanction the court, if that happens, or to sanction court officials, such as has already happened with the prosecutor, would appear to fulfill the elements of Article 70 of the Rome Statute, which talks of obstruction or other ways of interfering with the administration of justice. And so I think it's something that needs to be very carefully addressed and reviewed legally. The question of immunity for heads of state has been an issue that has been directly addressed by the International Criminal Court. And it is, in fact, quite a clear obligation for member states of the ICC to effectuate arrest warrants, no matter what the position is of the individual sought. So it's actually not, it's not an appropriate way to view international law. It's a misunderstanding to say that someone should be immune from that kind of arrest warrant. One of the main purposes of the International Criminal Court was to ensure that no one would be above the law. And so even the highest level officials have the obligation to submit themselves to such an arrest warrant, and all the member states should be implementing those arrest warrants. I believe very strongly that it's in the US interest to engage with the International Criminal Court. We have done so in the past, the US government, and here I'm just speaking not as an expert, but as an American. And as an expert, I will say that what we can see is whenever states engage with the court and create a relationship where they're collaborating, where they're sharing information, where they are able to really bring to bear the kinds of evidence that states have concerning these forms of the worst crimes, it is very much in favor of the entire international system. So in order to end this kind of terrible crime, of crimes against humanity, of war crimes, of genocide, states must act together. It's simply too easy for individuals to escape across different boundaries or to find a hiding place unless states act together to ensure that there is no safe haven for individuals who are suspected of committing the worst crimes. The US has for many decades been in favor of finding accountability instead of allowing impunity. And sanctioning the court is placing itself on the side of impunity, when what we need to do is ensure accountability for the worst crimes.